Hello everybody and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be showing you how to make custom name tags. Now I'll be completely honest with you, this is not a particularly easy video and that's why it's fairly late in the course, but the problem is with name tags is, like with the sidebar, we have to use the Bukkit Scoreboard implementation. And the problem with using that is it's not very well implemented. It's hard to use, it's hard to understand, and honestly from my perspective it's hard to teach. But don't worry because we're going to go through it together and hopefully we'll have something cool by the end. So of course, if you don't know what name tags are, well, I've joined a server here. Now this is called Hypixel and it's the most popular Minecraft server at the time of recording. And if I press my tab list, so I press tab button, you'll see in the tab list, all of those people have ranks before their name. So they have MVP or VIP. So those are donator roles. And then also they all have custom colored names. And also all of the normal people, they have grey names. And also you can see some people even have a suffix after their name. You can see the guy at the very top left has a suffix. Now, the cool thing about name tags is it doesn't just apply in the tab list. It also applies above people's head. You can see everybody has their own name tag. And so what we're going to be doing in today's video is replicating that by having code which will set somebody's name tag, which will apply both in the tab list and above their head. So the best way to structure this is by having a rank enum. Now, we're not doing a whole rank system in today's video, so we're not having like a way to store the ranks or anything fancy like that. I am just showing you the name tags, but still the best way to structure it is by using some sort of enum to determine what name tags you want to set. And the reason for that is because our code needs to know what all of the options are for us to be able to set somebody to. And the reason for that is because, as I said, we're using the Scoreboard implementation and we're using what are called teams. Now, you'll remember teams if you watch the sidebar video, but essentially for each rank or each possibility of a name tag, we're going to create a unique team for them. And within that team, we customize the prefix and the suffix, and you can even customize the name color. But the point is, we have to know what those teams are in order to create them in everybody's scoreboard and then add people to them. And so the best way for that is to have a list of constants, and an enum is just a list of constants. So we'll create a new Kotlin class file and we'll choose enum class. And then I'll just call this rank. Now obviously, here's where you can get a bit creative if you want to have loads of different types. Different colors, have a lot of fun, absolutely feel free. But what I'm going to do is just take the parameter for each enum value will be the prefix that I want to set. So let me do val. We'll do prefix component. Now, what you could do after this video, one fun thing, is you might also want to take the suffix, and then you can set the suffix by, when we set the prefix, I'll show you, but it's almost identical. You just change the suffix of the team. So if you wanted to take a suffix, then that's how you would do it. But for now, a prefix is perfect for a name tag. So what we're going to do is create our list of ranks. So let's think about a few common rank types. So maybe we'll have owner, and then maybe we'll have, let's say, helper, and then maybe just a normal player like a guest. Now, of course, customize this entirely what you want, especially when we come to write these prefix components. So for an owner, we'll do component.text, and we might do owner as the prefix. Now, the important thing is don't forget to put a space here. And that's because the prefix goes directly before the player's name, and it doesn't put a space in by default. So you need to put the space in so that they're not just one big word. So we'll do owner, and then put the color in. So let me do name text color dot, let's say red for owner. And then for helper, we'll do helper. And then let's say name text color, why don't we do dot green for a helper. And then for guest, very simple, we'll just do guest, and then should we say maybe gray? That's boring and guesty. So name text color dot gray. So you might just want to catch up for a second, but basically just customize this however you want and just make it unique to you. And also don't forget the space. That's the most important thing here. So what we're going to do in a second is we're going to create a class, and this class is going to register all of the teams in everybody's scoreboard, and then for each team we create, we're going to set the prefix of the team equal to the prefix of the rank that the team corresponds with. Now, I realize that's probably a lot of word salad, so what I'm going to do is just create the code and we'll look at it together. So for this, I think it would make sense to have an object. And there's nothing wrong with having an object where you just want to use some functions that don't depend on having multiple instances. So if I create an object and I just create, let's say, name tag manager. Now there's absolutely nothing wrong with this at all. Now this is what you would call a singleton design, where we don't need multiple instances of it and we're just using functions which we can reuse everywhere across the whole plugin basically. And here's where the powerhouse of the whole name tag system is going to be. We'll have some really useful functions in here to actually set the name tags and also remove the name tags when the player leaves. So on that note, we'll go ahead and create a listener. So I'll create a new Kotlin class. Let's just say connection listener. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to make this implement listener. And as always, there is no shortage of this. We're going to go to the main class and register our events. So Bukkit, get plugin manager, register events, and then a new instance of connection listener, and then this. Okay, perfect. So I've called mine connection listener, and that's because we're going to be listening to two important events which relate to my name tag code. The first one is going to be the join event, and have a guess, the second one is going to be the quit event. So we'll go ahead and write those out. We'll do event handler. Function on player join player join event, and then event handler function on player quit player quit event. Now I realize that writing those is just boring at this point in the course, but we do have to do them. So the convention with name tags generally is that you would apply the name tag when the player first joins, and of course that's what happened when I joined that server before. Is I joined and then I could see everybody else's name tag and everybody else could see mine. And that's them using it in the player join event. Now, of course, if you want to dynamically set them midway through a session, then yes, that would be a bit different and you wouldn't use this event. Although in 99.9% of cases, you would assign it in the join event. Okay, so let's go ahead and create some functions inside the name tag manager, which we're going to call from the connection listener. So the first one is going to be called set name tags. So I'll do function set name tags, and then we're going to take a player for this. Okay, and now before I continue, we need to talk about the actual architecture of this system. So how do we leverage Bukkit's Scoreboard API to make this work? Well, if you've watched the sidebar video, this will be a lot easier for you to understand, but I'm going to explain it in a way that everybody should be able to grasp. So every player has one scoreboard, and that scoreboard can consist of a load of teams. What we're going to do is for every player's scoreboard, we're going to create a team for each one of the ranks. And then, of course, we can edit the properties of that team, so we can change the prefix of it, the name of the color of the names, and the suffix. So at this point, every person will have 3 teams in their scoreboard. Each one will represent a rank. And what you can do is you can add people to that team. And once somebody is in that team, then to the person with this scoreboard, they will then inherit the properties of that team. So, for example, if I'm on my main account, Stephen, and I have my 3 scoreboard teams representing the 3 ranks, and Stephen 2 joins, and let's say he is rank owner, then the code that we're going to write is going to add Stephen 2 to the owner team, which then means that he will inherit the properties of that team, which will be this prefix, and so he will then have that name tag. Now obviously that's a little bit complex, but the reason it gets even more complex is because you set this on everybody's scoreboard. But then also, just to add another layer of complexity, when you join, you then need to get your scoreboard up to the current state of everybody else's. So to start with, the purpose of this set name tags function is to create your scoreboard. So the player that we've got here. So create your scoreboard, add teams, and you want to get it up to scratch with everybody else's. So and all online players. Okay. So with set name tags, we're going to run this one first in the connection listener. So name tag manager does set name tags e.player. So when the player joins, the first thing we're going to do is create their own scoreboard. We're going to create their own teams, and we're going to add everybody else on the server to their respective team within that player's scoreboard. So this now means that this player is going to see everybody else with the correct name tags. But of course we can't stop there, because what we need to do is go to everybody else's scoreboard and make sure that they see this player with their correct name tag. Otherwise, he would be left out. And so for that, we'll do another function. We'll do function. We'll do new name tag. And we'll do player. Now with this function, what we're going to do is assign you, so we'll do you as in this player here, assign you to everyone else's scoreboard. Okay, So just like in here, we're going to assign everybody to your scoreboard so you can see all their name tags. Of course, we need to make it so they can see your name tag. So we're going to loop through everybody and we're going to put you into their scoreboard. And then just a final function, just to clean things up, we're going to do remove name tag. And this is just to be a responsible developer and just make sure that when the player leaves, we remove them from everybody else's scoreboard. So remove you from all scoreboards. Okay, perfect. So we'll just fill in our connection listener. So the second thing that's going to happen when they join is nametagmanager.new name tag. So when they join, we're going to create their own scoreboard and populate it with everybody else. And then we're going to populate everybody else's scoreboard with the player that just joined. And then on the quit, of course, we're just going to remove them from everybody's scoreboard. So e.player, just like that. Okay, that's perfect. So we'll start creating some code for this. So the first thing you want to do is player.scoreboard equals Bukkit get scoreboard manager.new scoreboard. Now, here's where you need to be a little bit careful. If you have watched the sidebars video or any other video which contains scoreboards and you're messing with anything to do with scoreboards, then you can't combine them by just using a new scoreboard every time. A player can only have one scoreboard, which means if you've done the whole sidebar code on one scoreboard, and then you come in and assign them a new scoreboard, you're going to lose all of that code. They're not going to see the sidebar or anything else that you've done. So if at some point you've already assigned them a new scoreboard, then to access it in a different feature, like the name tags feature, you just use player.scoreboard because they've already got that scoreboard. But because we're only doing name tags here today, I'll assign them a brand new scoreboard. Okay, so we've created the scoreboard. Now we need to add the teams to the scoreboard. So this is so that we can add the properties to the teams and then add players to the teams so that we can see everybody else in their respective team. So what we'll do is rank.entries. So we're looping through the rank enum and we'll do for each. Now for each of these ranks, we're going to create a team within the player's scoreboard. So to do that, we're going to do player.scoreboard.register new team. And in here we put the name of the team. Now this name is never shown to anyone, so don't worry about the name. So you can just do it.name. Now that just refers to the default name, which is created by the rank enum. Now I notice we haven't put a name, which means that this here is the name. So don't worry because it's not going to be shown to anybody. So we'll register the team based on the name, and then we'll do .apply because we're going to change one or two things about it. Now for me, I'm going to change the prefix. So I'll do prefix and then it.prefix. That of course refers to the prefix that we created here. If you then wanted to add a suffix, you just do suffix like this. If you then wanted to change the color of the player's name, you just do .color and pop in your name to text color there. But for me, I'm happy with just changing the prefix. Okay, so we've created the scoreboard. We've added all of the teams. So what we've done is we've assigned a team for each rank with the properties of that rank, which is what we set, which was the prefix. So now that means that any players that we add to this team which we've created within this player's scoreboard is now going to inherit those properties. So that means that they're going to have this prefix before their name, basically. So what we need to do now to finish this function off, as we can see, is add all of the online players to this player's scoreboard so that they can see those players and they can inherit the properties for that player. Now the only problem we have here is we don't actually have a data source. We're not storing the ranks anywhere. And so if I was to loop through all of the online players here, which I will do, Bukkit.getOnlinePlayers.forEach. Now what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to assign them each to a specific team. But how do I know what team to assign them to? They don't have actual ranks. We've just kind of made up this rank system and we don't have a data source. So what I'll do is I'll just use a temporary rank for now. And of course, if you were doing this in a proper rank system, then you would connect this with your data source so you'd know what everybody's rank is. And of course, you don't just have to use rank. You can make it points based. You can do whatever you want. But whatever it is, you have to know what it is. And in this loop, we don't know what it is because we're not saving anything. So I'll just make a constant up here. We'll do private val temp rank equals rank.owner. Okay. We'll just use that in this class just as a temporary rank for now, on the presumption that you will have a data source for your ranks. But of course, if you're just learning with me, then you can just do the same. That's totally fine. And then when we go to test it, you can just try multiple ranks and have a bit of fun with it. So for me, what I'm going to do is for every online player, I'm going to do player.scoreboard.getTeam, and that's where we use the name of the team that we had up here. Now, of course, this is where you have to know what their rank is or whatever metric you're using. So I'm going to do temp rank.name, and then you're simply going to do add entry. Now we need to be a bit careful because this is nullable. However, because I've registered the teams, I can not null it. And I'd quite like to know if there's an error there, so I'll not null it for now. So we're going to do add entry, and now unfortunately, this is one of the downsides of the Bukkit scoreboard system. It's very backwards. Unfortunately, it uses player names and not player UIDs or the player variables, which is very odd. But unfortunately, we have to live with this. So what we'll do is add entry, and then it.name. So remember, we're referring to the target which we're looping through, and then add them to their respective team. Okay, so that's that function done. We've reached our goals. We've created the scoreboard, we've added their teams to the scoreboard, and we've added everybody else to their scoreboard. So essentially, for this single player, they can now see everybody else perfectly. So now we need to make it so that everybody else can see them perfectly as well. So we're going to assign them to everybody else's scoreboard. So to do that, we're going to loop through and get everybody else's scoreboard. So Bukkit to get online players .forEach. And then we'll do it to refer to their scoreboard, so the target player, and then .scoreboard, and then .get team. Now, of course, this is where you have to get the rank of the player you're trying to add. Now, of course, we don't have that, so we're going to use the temp rank again. So we'll do temp rank, and then we'll do .name to get the actual team. Now, everybody will have this in their scoreboard because they'll have went through this function, which adds it to their scoreboard. So from there, we can very simply do add entry, and we're going to add the player .name and not null it as well. So a little bit more confusing, but you can basically see that we're looping through everybody else's scoreboard. For everybody else's scoreboard, we're getting the rank team for the player, which we know will have been created because they went through this. And then we're adding the player to that, which then means basically when people join, they will now see us. Okay, now the last one is the most simple of all. We're going to loop through everybody's scoreboard again. So we're looping through everybody's scoreboard, and then we're going to do it.scoreboard.get entry team. Now this is a very nice helper function to essentially return whichever team a single player is associated with very simply. So if we just do player.name, then you'll find that we can have access to the team and very simply do remove entry player.name. And we can not null it as well because we know they're going to be in a team. Alright, that's perfect. That's good stuff. So this now should all work by the looks of things. I just want to say I realize that this code looks confusing, it's difficult to understand, and it's difficult to explain. When I first learned this, I really struggled just because of the complexities of the way they've done scoreboards in the API. But guys, the more times you'll write this, the more you'll begin to understand it, so don't worry too much. And if you already understand it, then just well done, because you're smashing it. So I'm pretty sure this will work if we look at the rest of the classes. It all looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and fire this up, and hopefully when I join I should be able to see myself as owner, and if we had more people on then they'd see me as owner, and then of course if we had a way to actually change the ranks and so on from helper to guest, then we would see those work as well. So I will go to Gradle, run server, and I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, so I'm logging into my local host now, and we should see that if I press tab, there we go, I now have that name tag. Now, unfortunately, I can't see my own name tag, but I can guarantee it's there because whatever's in the player list will always match whatever is on top of the player's head. So that's perfect. Our name tags has worked. Now, if somebody else had joined with a different name tag, then of course that would work also. You'd see helper and guest and so on. But the problem is, with all these name tags, especially if you have loads of different types of ranks, the order is alphabetical. Now, this doesn't make most sense in a lot of cases, because you want to order it yourself. And so just before we end the video, I'm going to show you a quick trick on how to actually order the name tags. Now, we won't see it in game because we don't have like 50 accounts to test with, but I can guarantee you this is how it works in the scoreboard system. So what we're going to do is head to our rank enum, and we need to think about this as a hierarchy. So this is at the top, of course, this is middle, this is bottom. So you need to add the most powerful ranks at the top, and that's why I did it in this order in the first place. Now, we're going to capture another piece of data here, not just the prefix. We're also going to capture, let's say, a val, and we'll just call this order, and we'll just make it a char. Okay, so the way that this works is a char, obviously, in Kotlin is just a single character. And as I said, it's alphabetical, which means we're just going to have the highest, most powerful rank as A. Now, you can't use speech marks for a char like this. You have to use apostrophes, just like that. So that, of course, means the next one's B, and the next one's C. So in whatever way you have your rank enum, as long as you have an order symbol for each one, what we're going to do is head to the name tag manager and make sure we use this order symbol in the rank name. Now, as I said, this rank name doesn't go out to any person, but this is what does dictate the order. Now, I agree with you, it's a bit strange to have it alphabetical by default behavior, but I guess they've got no other metric to go on, so we need to follow along with that. So what we'll do is in the register new team function, obviously we're looping through all of the different ranks, so for each rank we're going to create a new team, but instead of just the name, it's going to be it.order, and then plus it.name. So now in the end, this probably will come out looking like something like this: A owner, or B helper, or C guest. Now that's totally fine, because as I said, it doesn't get shown to the user, and this is how big servers would do their ordering in the tab list. Of course, this doesn't affect name tags, but it will affect how it's ordered in the tab list. So what you need to do is register the team with the order symbol first, and that's just our way of overriding whatever the name starts with alphabetically. Now, of course, because we've changed it here, we also need to change it where else we've actually called the team. So we've done it here, so we have to get their rank. So temp rank dot order plus temp rank dot name, and then down here get team temp rank dot order plus temp rank dot name. And then we don't need to do it here because we didn't specifically reference any team, we're just getting it from this function. So that's perfect. So now when you fire this up, all of the name tags are going to be in the order that you set within this enum. Now that's really cool. It feels almost like we've cheated the system by just spending 30 seconds to make such an impactful visual change, but having that order is really good for staff ranks, for donator ranks, all that sort of stuff. So that's how you would do the ordering. And other than that, guys, I think we've nailed it today. So I realize it's a bit difficult, and I'm sorry about that, but it's just how the API is designed. If you need any assistance with the topic, come join the Discord, or if you want the source code, it is of course attached alongside this video. But other than that, we will see you in the next one.